and gentlemen, welcome back to Podcast Juice. Of course, my name is Dean, and as you can see, we are joined here by a lovely, beautiful lady, Robia Scott. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm blessed. I get to wake up this morning and sit here and get to talk to you. So, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And, let me say, as a fan, a longtime fan of Prince, and I don't know how people know these things, but we so much have watched you over the years, just, because being a part of this project and being a part of the Prince, the Prince dream or the Prince reality or just that whole thing.
Prince universe.
There you go. The Prince universe. Yeah. So I'm very excited. And I know a lot of us, we're just like, so let us geek out a little bit and give you your props.
Awesome.
All that good stuff. But yeah, thank you for joining me. Appreciate it.
So glad to be here. Thank you.
So let me say this, and as I'll speak for myself, as I get up there in age, I think I will be 54 this year. I look back at things now that, I loved as the younger me and just how they meant to me at that point and what they mean to me now. And I had to say, 32 years later, we're talking about this Diamonds and Pearls project and, talking about you. And I'm just curious from your perspective, like, what does that feel like, that we're on the cusp of a re-release of this album?
Can you believe it?
Yeah. And it's like, you were part of this forever,
I know. I was such a munchkin at the time. I was so young. It's like the saying says, the youth is wasted on the youth, or however that goes. But it's true. It's like I was like too young to even fully appreciate how incredible it was at the time. But I do remember way back when, as a little youngster, being taken into the vault and seeing just, track after track after track after track, and all these artist names on there. I mean, everyone you could think of from across the board. And, it was like thousands and thousands of things of music. And so to see this, I didn't know this existed, but to see this now come out and have it be around Diamonds and Pearls, and, to hear the track, to hear Cream, Take Two, and just to have this uncovered right now, it's super exciting. I mean, This is timeless, this work with Prince and Prince himself, it's timeless.
Yeah. What, I always wonder this, just in your normal sort of everyday life throughout the years, and that video or these songs come on, do you get a certain kind of feeling like, oh, I was a part of that, or that's me? Or do people recognize that was you? Or do they ask, like, you look very familiar, Robia?
Well, people do say I look familiar. I think it's from a few things. It's from Prince. And then I went on to do some acting after that. I was on a show called Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which was also like a timeless classic that, again, 30 years later, people are still crazy about that show. So it's interesting to be a part of television history and music history. So people recognize me a little bit, but I mean, anytime I hear that music, I actually just spent an hour while I was getting ready, just kind of going through the old songs and remembering watching the videos a little bit, remembering what it felt like to do it, because I haven't revisited it in a little bit. So I kind of wanted to refresh. Like, it's weird. It's like, in some ways it feels like a total huge lifetime ago. And then in other ways it's like right there, like a minute ago. So it's a weird dichotomy.
Well, let's go back a little bit. And we're going to get to the Prince thing in a second, but before that,
yes,
I was doing some research on you, and I see that when you were younger, dance was super important. You are a dancer. You were a dancer. Dancer was your thing. Talk to me about the movie, and I like to use like sort of goalpost moments, but the movie Flashdance.
That was a moment.
Yeah. Explain to me, what did that mean to you?
Okay, so I'm probably about 12 years old. I was always that little girl who danced around the house like so many little girls do. You put on a show in the yard and you're doing stuff for your parents to watch you. But when I saw the movie Flashdance, that was an eye-opener, because I realized that you could actually do this dance thing. Like, you could do it for a living. It could be a career. And that movie was just revolutionary, Right. That was just like a wow moment. And I am not lying. I went out that week and I was allowed to get a perm, And I got a big old perm. I was Jennifer Beals, big old perm, curly, cut off all my sweatshirts, went and bought a bunch of leg warmers, wearing leg warmers over the jeans, the whole 9 yards,
Mhm.
and started taking dance classes. And went from one class a week to 2 classes to 10 a week. And then I just, at 16, went professional.
Wow. And like, what were your parents thought? Obviously, they supported you in this.
They did.
What did they think of you, like getting deeper into dance to the point where you're at 16 and you're able to go professional? Like,
They were all for it. I had really supportive parents, thank goodness. And my dad was really walking it out with me, taking me to the dance studio every day. They actually let me get my GED and leave school, and just they really supported me. So I actually, got like the equivalent of a high school diploma, because I started working at 16. So I had to be like legally of age and professional, and I started traveling the world at 16 years old, doing all sorts of dance shows. I actually toured first before Prince with the Pet Shop Boys.
saw that. Yes.
Yeah, so that was an incredible experience. And then I did just a bunch of different kinds of theatrical shows around the world, and then Prince.
Some of the other bands you work with, before I get to that, and I'm asking these questions because, I'm a dad myself. We're both parents here. And again, now that we've had some experience, I'm curious, like, if your daughter wanted to get into dance in the capacity that you would, what would you say?
Well, interestingly enough, she's 12, and that's when I started, and she just started, seriously.
Really?
She did a little bit here and there, but now she's in a conservatory, and so she's dancing all throughout the week. She's also really a singer. That's her main gift.
Okay.
So dancing complements and supports the singing, but she's a powerhouse little singer. So I don't really know exactly where it's going to go. It's such a different world now than it was then.
Absolutely.
I was even watching the Get Off video with my husband just recently, because when all this surfaced about everything coming, we were just like laying in bed, like flipping through our phones, and I was showing him things. He's already seen it, but he hasn't looked at it in a while. And he actually said, "Oh my gosh, that video is actually pretty clean and conservative." And I said, at the time, it was considered so crazy racy, but really where things are now, like that video was actually pretty wholesome. So, I don't know. I don't know if I'd want her to go professional, but, I'll support her with what she wants to do.
Got you. Yeah, the Get Off video, it was something else.
It's such a great video. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, we were talking about, so you got into dance. Oh, I wanted to ask you this. You were in a video of Guy, the group Guy?
Right, yeah. Do Me Right.
Oh.
It's such a good video. Did you watch it? Did you pull it up? It's on YouTube.
I've actually seen it. I'm a huge Guy fan. So when I saw that, I was like, what?
I love that song. I loved that video. Yeah, and I'm in it quite a bit, so check it out.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
And then of course you were working with Debbie Gibson.
That was my very first job.
Really?
I was 16 when I got the Debbie Gibson video. I think Paula Abdul actually choreographed it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, this was like when she was stepping into choreography, and she was, it was a transition for her. She was a Laker girl, and then she was a choreographer before she became a huge mega superstar.
Janet.
And so, yeah. And then Debbie Gibson was just new on the scene, I think. And she was a big deal because she was a teenager. And you can see me I think it's still on YouTube. You got to look for it. But I have the perm. I've got like the 80s, I got the look in that one. Right. And so that was my first job.
Wow. Yeah. Debbie Gibson was huge back then. Like that was
huge.
Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah. So you're doing your thing. You're out here working professionally. I don't know if your agent or somebody gives you the call.
Yes.
And says Prince is having an audition. Actually, before that, because we're in the same time frame here. Talk to me a little bit about Purple Rain, though, and we saw some goalpost moments. The movie Purple Rain. I assume that were you a fan of Prince? I guess.
Yes. Who's not a fan of Prince? Come on. Purple Rain. Again, it's just like, that song. The song is. Please. I mean, the song is just a classic. And then him at the Super Bowl, forget about it.
Right.
Oh my gosh, forget about it. But Purple Rain, of course, blew me away. And then I remember, this was the time where MTV was coming onto the scene.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the world culturally when like I was starting to do music videos, and MTV was really on the rise. It was starting to take off.
Yeah.
And I think the first video that really captured me was Kiss.
Okay.
That Kiss video. First of all, that song was amazing. And then just, liking dancing and then seeing that girl in the Kiss video. And she was just like her body and her dancing. I was like, yes, like I want to do that. Except I want my face in the video too. I don't want to be veiled, but I want that,
Yeah, yeah.
And so when I got called for the Prince video, I wasn't like, oh my gosh, it's Prince, because I really was just going on a ton of music video auditions. That's just what you did as a dancer. So it was cool. I was like, oh, this is cool. I'd like to be in a Prince music video. And they were looking for a lot of dancers, a big group. And it was for Cream. And so it was like, they wanted 30 or 40 dancers. And I remember, going in and auditioning. And then they called me for the callback and they said, he's actually also looking for a set of identical twins, and they haven't really been able to find a set of twins. Mm-hmm. And you and this other dancer, Lori, you guys look alike. And so they were wanting to maybe have you guys be the twins. And so I thought, okay, I get on the phone with Lori because we all know each other. It's a small world, the dance world. I get on the phone with her and we're talking about this because they wanted us to dress alike and come in really, working the twin angle. And so we're chatting about it and we go, I don't know about that. These dancers are probably going to get featured. They're probably going to, really be the stars of the video. And then they're going to pan to these twins, like sitting in a corner, drinking a sip of coffee or something. We thought it would be like the worst part of the job, right? So we didn't do it. We're like, let's sabotage it. So we did not look like twins. We went in, we just did our own thing. And we wound up getting cast as the twins anyway. It happened.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and little did we know the twins was the role to get.
Yeah. Did when you had that call back, had Prince been there the first time, or when's the first time you saw
Prince was not
walks in the room?
He wasn't there, but he did tell me that when he saw me in the first audition, when I came on screen, because they were filming everything to send to Prince, and he told me that as soon as he saw me, he knew that was going to be that, because of course we know that Prince kind of has a type, right?
I'm gonna let you say.
Yeah, Prince has a type, and I am very much that type. If you go down the line of all the years, there's a theme, right? So when we had hired as the twins, I don't think Prince even honestly knew what the twins were going to be about. So we got the Cream video, we go and we start to rehearse. And I do remember, you want to hear the story of just first seeing Prince?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So I remember being in a dance studio. Oh, that's making noise. Let me try to turn that off for you guys. Okay, here we go. Being in a dance studio in LA, just me and Lori, none of the other dancers were there, because we knew that we would be sort of the bookends for him for this video. Okay. And we're just hanging out like dancers do on the floor. We're kind of stretching, we're chatting. And, I have the mirror in front of me, and the door to come in the studio is behind me. So when you're looking in front of you in the mirror, you can see everything. And so we're talking, dance, kind of stretching, whatever. And I look up in the mirror, and all of a sudden there's Prince. He's standing in the doorway, like framed perfectly by the doorway. And like, it's almost seriously, Michael, like there could have just been like a smoke machine. Like, that's who Prince is. Like when he comes into the room, seriously, it's true. The atmosphere shifts. It was almost like, like he stepped out of the shadow. He stepped out of the smoke. And he's just there, like so cool. Okay. You had to have seen this. Have you seen Fallon tell the story? Jimmy Fallon tell the story about Prince when they played ping pong, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Seriously, you got to know Prince to know how accurate and funny that story is. Like, do you want to do this thing? So Prince, right? But what I love about that story is at the end where, Jimmy Fallon goes to bend down and then he comes up and Prince is like gone.
He's gone.
That's who Prince was. Like, you don't even realize it. Like, he's in the room, like smoke. And then like, all of a sudden the smoke clears and like, he's gone. He disappears. He's Prince. Like, he's so mysterious. It's so his persona. So there he is, and he's in his full regalia. He's in like the suit and the gold buttons and the cane and the stirrup pants with the high
Mm.
heels, and the pants are over
Mhm.
the stirrup, like right. Those were like back in the day, which are
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
back now, the stirrup pants. It's hysterical. So he walks in, and it's like you're just like, "Oh, what do I do? Hi, you don't even really know what to do. It's just like, wow, I'm really in the presence of like larger than life Prince.
Mm.
So the choreographer's there, they put on the music, we start doing things, and then before you know it, it's like 5 minutes later, and we're like on the floor, like he's on top of me, like,
Wow. How about that?
like, what is going on here? But as a dancer too, that is kind of the norm. You're just that's what dancers do. You're like all entwined with each other. It's just part of dancing, right?
Okay.
But it's pretty cool that it's Prince. And so I think it was probably then and there that it was like he just got it from above to
Mm.
actually name us Diamond and Pearl. I don't think that was the intention going in. I think we just all of us had such great chemistry from the first second. And I think he just saw that there was something to this because it was really just supposed to be for the Cream video. That's all we were hired for. That was it. And then I think he had the moment of revelation, and then named us Diamond and Pearl. And then before we even shot I think this is accurate. This was a long time ago. I think before we even shot the Cream video, we
Mhm.
started getting the calls. We started getting the calls like, "Can you go to Minneapolis? Can you go to Paisley Park?" And I think we might have even shot Get Off first, if I recall
That's what I
correctly.
always want to wonder the sequence of these videos.
Yeah.
They were because I know Get Off came out first, but it doesn't necessarily mean it was shot first. And I was curious about.
I would have to go back and think about that and remember the timeline, but I think I recall that we did Get Off first. And then
And
of
when you
course,
say Get Off, was this the main Get Off
the
video?
main Get Off. Yeah,
Okay.
the big Get Off. And that's when I started to get a sense of like, wow, like, we were at Paisley Park, and you walk in and there's like these huge sound stages, and then Prince has his like apartment thing there, and it's all princed out with like fur, and he everything is like princed out, right? It's like fur, and all the lights, all the lamps in the place always had like draped over silks over them, and it
It
was
was a
just
vibe for sure.
yeah, it was his vibe. It was his vibe. Even on tour, we'd go someplace for one night, and you'd go in his dressing room, and it would be princed out. It would be
Just
like
transformed.
it would be transformed. He was never in like a green room that with like a black leather couch. Like it was always princed.
Wow.
So I think we did that, and then that was Randy St. Nicholas who directed that, and then she shot the album cover, and then it just snowballed. It was just one thing after another, and we were just getting calls. We'd get a call at 10 in the morning. Can you guys get on a plane? We wouldn't even know what was going on, so we would just throw some stuff in a bag. We'd jump on a plane, and 2 hours later, we'd be at Paisley Park. We'd be shooting videos. Like we didn't even know what was up. Yeah.
So the Cream video? I'm curious. I don't know if that was the first moment. You guys rehearsed that first. That was the first thing you.
We rehearsed that for, gosh, maybe like a week or two.
Really?
Yeah.
What,
There were a lot of dancers in there. That was a big production.
Yeah.
Cream was a huge production.
what was? I was wondering. What was your first thought when you heard the song? When you heard the music for the first time. Do you remember that at all? Were you like, "Wow, this is great," or?
I wasn't so much, even being a dancer, like I wasn't super musically, like I wasn't a big music person. And I know that's crazy. I had never even been to a concert before I starred in the concert. Yeah. So obviously, I mean, I had an affinity for music as a dancer, but I wasn't that kind of person who was like always listening to records and like really had that thing with music. I was just more about music in terms of my dance.
Okay.
So it wasn't until after I got off tour with Prince that I went and saw a concert, and I was like, what is this BS? Like someone's just sitting there. Like, this is not a concert. I did a concert. There was, I've never seen anything that even compared to what we did. But of course now there's some huge, incredible shows. Back in the day, like it was not like what we did.
Well, I can't imagine never going to a concert before, but then you are in this huge, I don't know, it's what 50, 60,000 people at these shows or something?
60,000 people. I mean, on stage, Prince, the whole shebang. I remember he had, I don't even know what song it was for, but he had like them rig this bed that would like go across the stage and kind of out into the audience. And the three of us would be there and he'd be singing and we'd be dancing and we'd be like flying over 60,000 people and all over Europe and
Wow.
outdoor studios. And then the rain would come, just like in the Super Bowl, we'd be like out dancing in the rain and
Wow.
magical,
Man,
unbelievable.
goodness.
I know. I wish I could do it again. And now I fully appreciate it, you know?
How you got me going all over the place here.
Yeah, I know. We're jumping around a lot. I'm jumping. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, just to speak on the concert thing, and I'm going to come back to the videos, but
Yeah.
I was just curious, the the rehearsal process of the tour. And one thing I was, for American fans, we were always so mad because that show didn't come here.
I was
But,
so bummed
yeah.
too because none of my friends or family got to see it. So bummed.
Wow. Yeah. What was that process of the rehearsal for this tour in terms of in regards to you guys?
My goodness, I barely even remember that. I honestly barely remember how that went. Oh my gosh.
I'm curious, like, would the band sort of had already worked out the music part of the show, and then you came in a little later, or were you guys sort of around that whole thing? And it was this at Paisley Park, or was it sound stages somewhere?
Jeez, I honestly don't even remember that aspect of it.
Okay.
I mean, we were always all around.
Hmm.
We were all around. I remember doing the sound checks,
Okay.
flying into a country and going to do sound check and Prince being there, the band being there, us kind of walking through everything, making sure we knew where we were going.
Mm-hmm.
But I honestly don't even remember the rehearsal.
Right.
I know that it was different for us. Like Prince, he was he was so serious about the music.
Mm-hmm.
That was definitely the priority. I think we kind of just took care of things on our own as the dancers, like with our choreographer or whatever. But he was really about the music. So he was a little harder on the musicians.
What do you mean when you say harder? What did you see?
Well, he could, I remember times where there would be a rehearsal
Mm-hmm.
and everyone would be playing and he could hear a note that was off.
Mm.
With 15 musicians, the whole horn section and everyone doing their thing. And he would just be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Look at someone, give him the Prince look, like, his facial expressions. And I remember, some of the band, they were definitely, they had to be on their toes.
Absolutely. Okay.
In a different way than we did.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wanted to show a couple of things here and get your.
Oh, what you got?
Nothing crazy. So of course, now it's one thing when I try to tell people, I'm like, yo, you've never seen an album cover until you've seen the original album cover of this. But what was that? Just what you remember of that album cover, the hologram, the photo shoot, if you remember, like any thoughts? It's such an iconic cover. The original. This is great too, but you never seen something like that before.
Right. That was definitely cutting edge to do the hologram. And so I remember sitting for that and all the different poses and everything we did. Of course, I got kind of the short end of the stick on this one. I wasn't as happy about being kind of blurred in the background, which is why I think he gave me the Cream single cover, because he was like, let me make that up to you. I was like, well, it doesn't fully make it up to me, but we'll accept that, Prince. Also, I was really surprised that he let me have a cigarette in this. I was a big smoker back in the day, and he hated cigarettes. Oh my gosh, he hated it. So looking back now, I cannot believe he allowed me to smoke a cigarette.
That's funny. I don't even. It just goes out of my mind. But yeah, you have a cigarette. I
had a cigarette in my hand, which I did at that time back in the day. But the fact that he allowed me to do that, and on the album cover,
right?
But it was kind of part of my edgy vibe. But he hated the cigarettes, so I was really surprised by that. I remember the way we filmed this a little bit. Like we had to. I think we were on some kind of rotating stage or something, and you had to kind of hold a pose, and everything would rotate. It'd be like,
oh wow!
In order to do that hologram.
Hmm.
So you had to be sort of precise with how you did that. I remember that. And then I remember just shooting all sorts of fun stuff with the photographer, Randy, who's incredible. I have some photos from that. Yeah, I don't know if did she shoot this? That was from the video, Cream. She did that. Yeah, I loved that shoot. Oh my gosh. Look at that picture.
Yeah.
That's one of my personal favorite pictures of me
Oh,
and
really?
Prince. Yeah, I think that one is just, I love that one. And then the whole series with Lori and I in that outfit. And where do you have some of those?
I don't think I have mine here, but I know what you're talking about. Prince has
Yeah.
the black thing on.
Yes, and then
Yeah.
we're backwards and our heads back, and
Yes.
we're looking at him, and I think
Yeah.
that whole series is incredible.
Very
And then
iconic.
Randy just took some pictures of me from the album cover outfit
Okay.
that are so beautiful, like some of the best pictures I've ever taken. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
we
Yeah.
were always doing photo shoots and getting
Man,
cool
you
clothes.
guys were like, so I thought you guys were models. Like essentially, I was like, man, where did Prince get these badass models?
Woo, you know. No, and it's so funny because when people would meet us in person, they'd be surprised that we weren't sort of these glamazons because we kind of had that thing. But if
Mm.
you look, like we're right at the same level as Prince. So I'm 5'6".
Really? Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I'm not. She's 5'6".
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
we're like dancer girls, but we come off as these like 6-foot models, just because the way they shoot it. It's like larger than life. That was also. I mean, this is like the classic image right here.
Yeah.
Classic.
Those videos are incredible. I wanted to ask you about there's another thing that's being included in the special edition is a lot of the music videos that were shot that at the time it came out in a video collection. I'm very sure you're aware of this back then. But now people get to see these all over again. But one of the things that I remember when it came out was the Get Off home video VHS. I
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
more records buying that. And when those videos came on, the house style
yeah.
video, and I had heard the songs because the maxi single was out, and then to actually the fact that they did videos for every single one, it blew my mind.
I
And
know.
like in the house video, I mean the original, the main video is awesome. That is a production for the generation.
Right.
But the house one to me was like, now this is the Prince I wanted. It would just seem more loose.
Behind the scenes, yeah. And it was. I don't think, honestly, I don't recall them saying, like, okay, now we're shooting the video and it's for this. Like, it would just happen. Like, we would just be in Minneapolis and then all of a sudden it would be, come over to the house, and then we'd be like driving in the car and I don't know, he would just be shooting stuff. It would just be happening.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, those videos are awesome.
I love that video. Yeah.
You guys did Strolling?
And then we did Strolling, which I can't find anywhere. I know I have some copies of it in my somewhere, but I can't find it online. And Lori actually directed that.
Really? I didn't
Yeah,
know.
she really wanted to be more on that side and to be creative like that. So I think he let her kind of take that one over. And that was really pretty. I liked that video a lot.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite songs on the albums. I just couldn't believe there was a video. I was like, what?
I was a bird.
I couldn't understand like why weren't some of these on
What's going on
TV?
over there?
But yeah,
I know they all should have been on TV. They all should have been.
and you brought it up earlier, but MTV was the Instagram, that was the internet for us back then. You watched MTV. The videos were super important. That was life. Those videos were monumental. Talk to me about the impact of working with Prince at that time, being young age. Like, what was the feedback from friends and family? Like, because Prince at this time was Prince. Prince was known for very sexual type stuff, of course, very spiritual stuff. But if I was asked my grandparents and my mom and them, they would always feel like, I don't know if I want you to listen, and so here you are, you're in Get Off.
Yeah.
And then Prince also did the MTV thing. I don't know if you guys were in that.
I didn't do that because I actually had he was not happy about that.
Tell us about that.
I can't believe I'd made this decision, but my best girlfriend from my whole childhood was getting married and it was the same time. And I committed to be in her wedding and be her maid of honor. And it was, it was at the same time. So I didn't do that,
The
which I don't know.
infamous
I think it
TV.
was like a good decision in the moment, but now I regret it. Now I definitely regret it. I would have loved to have done that. That's when he wore the butt cutout.
Right, right. Yeah.
Gosh, yeah. I wish I had done that one.
I'm
So
serious. Did you ever see that did in your rehearsals or any other thing that we obviously we never saw? Did you ever pull that out
I
again?
don't think I remember I think I was there with the rest of America and the world on the butt exposure one. He was just always pushing the envelope. He was always taking it to the next level. Love
Absolutely.
that about him. And then I was there for him kind of switching into the artist formerly known as Prince,
Mm,
and then him with the symbol, and then we couldn't call him Prince anymore. Like if you said, "Hey Prince," and you were in the room, like he wouldn't turn around. And I
wow.
remember having a conversation with him, like, "What do I call you? Hey you?" Like doesn't seem appropriate. Yeah, you just couldn't really call him. You just would have to tap him on the shoulder or something because you couldn't call him. But it was just such a different time. It was things were just different then. A lot of when I was working with Prince and doing all that, I was really in a bubble because there was no social media. There were no
Mhm.
cell phones. We didn't have cell phones.
Right.
So it wasn't being documented the whole time.
Mm,
People weren't aware of what I was doing. It would only come out when a video would come out
I got
or
yeah.
things would come out if we would do the press. At that time, Lori and I we were the mouthpieces for the album because he wasn't doing any press. So
Mm.
when we did a talk show or a radio show, something would come out, but it was very hidden. The whole thing was hidden because it was a different time.
Yeah, it's almost hard, excuse me, hard to sort of visualize that now because the world is so different. But again, if you think about it, 30 something years ago, it's not that long ago, but it is such long enough that everything has changed
So
dramatically.
different. No selfies. Like the whole time we're on tour,
Right.
no one knows what we're doing. Like no one at home knew what my day to day looked like unless I called them on the phone and had a conversation. So there'd be a little bit of press overseas that we were doing, but it wasn't. Now if we had done it, like every day would be put out
Right.
there. So it was just a totally different world. And in some ways, I think I'm kind of glad that happened. I think it preserved me and protected me from life as we know it because
I can
it's
imagine. Yeah. Yeah. God, you mentioned the thing about there's no selfies, there's no day-to-day pictures of every moment you're doing. Oh, they're walking out this, or they're doing that.
yeah, I'm about to go live. Here I am on set. Me and Prince backstage. Like it was just none of that.
You said you were around when he was changing his name, or when he did change his name to the symbol.
Yeah.
So what kind of conversations, if you were going to be you're the mouthpiece for Prince at this time, or at least you guys are talking in
Mhm.
place of him, was he giving you sort of talking points to sort of?
We had some talking points and we had some mock interviews to sort of
Okay.
prepare for things. We didn't get into that side of it as much. I think we mostly just played the whole cat and mouse angle of like, are you all dating Prince? And, he definitely loved things to be controversial and
Right.
interesting and mysterious. And so, we didn't get into the technical aspect. We were just like, we stayed more on that side of things. And I just remember personally, I talked to him a little bit about it, but I was also young. I didn't really understand. And I think it's probably more public knowledge now than I even understand. But I think it was something to do with a record label and him not owning his tracks and then
Right.
him having to change his name to kind of protect his music, something
Mhm.
along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You got it. What was you were saying you're 19, 20 years old,
Yeah.
being on the road, you're on an international tour with one of the biggest artists of the time.
Ever.
What was some of the, like, what was the day-to-day sort of life
Okay,
like?
well, it was absolutely incredible. Oh my gosh, it was incredible. So we're flying first class all around the world. We're on the bullet train in different places in Europe and just going to just the most amazing places in the world. Spent 3 weeks in Australia, um, Ireland, Scotland, stayed in a castle in Scotland and had high tea and went skeet shooting. And I'm like shooting things and I've got like bruises all over my shoulder from the pulled back. It was just like such an awesome experience.
Wow.
So we had most of the day to ourselves. So Lori and I would go run around and shop and, be in these countries, like exploring and having a blast.
Wow.
And then at 5 o'clock, you'd show up at the venue for a sound check. And we would do a sound check and a run through, eat a little bit of dinner, And then the show would happen and we would do the show and it was incredible. And you're on stage and you're doing quick changes in the back and your dressers are dressing you. And, our hair was like all the way up to here. Like our hair was huge. I remember at the time, like 2 sets of false eyelashes. Everything was just larger than life, right? And I remember getting home and like just doing my makeup normally and not having eyelashes on, and it looked like I had no eyes. It was just so weird because I was used to eyelashes and hair and the whole shebang. But then the really fun part was often we would do these impromptu club shows. So we'd finish the show 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, somewhere 11-ish. We'd go back to the hotel, maybe change clothes, whatever. And then Prince would just say, you would just get that call, like, we're going out, and we're going to go do a show. And so I guess what would happen is, I guess the manager or someone, the tour manager, would work something out with some hot club in the area.
Mm-hmm.
And they would do an impromptu show. Like no one would know. There'd be no advertising, but whoever just happened to be at the club that night got a flippin' free live Prince concert.
Right. The after show.
We would just show up. It'd be like midnight, 1 a.m. All of a sudden, Prince up on stage. The people go nuts. Lori and I just pop up and we don't have anything, rehearsed. We're just kind of like club dancing. We're just freestyling. We're in cute little outfits or whatever. We're having a blast. Prince is just riffing, doing his thing. The band's doing their thing. It's 2, 3 in the morning. The place is crazy. It's awesome.
Wow.
And then Prince was so cool. I totally remember. I'll give you guys a little like behind the scenes. I guess they would give him like all the door money or whatever. They would just give, I don't know how they worked out the financial end. Mm-hmm. But I remember after the show, he'd call us back and me and Lori and the band members, and he'd have just like a wad of cash. And he would like just put cash in our hands for the night.
Wow.
Like I remember just, walking in and just getting hundreds, like a stack of hundreds. And he'd be like, thank you very much. And I'd be like, thank you very much.
Right.
So awesome. It was just great. He was just generous and, wow. Took care of us. And, we just went with the flow. It was just Prince. You just never knew what to expect with Prince. You just had to be ready. And he was all about the music. That's all he wanted to do. He's just music, music, music.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he wants to play at the show and then go to the club and just make his music.
Let me ask you this, ramping down from the Prince stuff. And you mentioned the after shows. That's something, us as fans, we love those almost more than the normal concert, right? Because we feel like that's when Prince just gets loose just does his thing. Yeah. One of the things in this special edition is I don't know if it's considered an after show, but it's a club show at Glam Slam. I believe it was in Minneapolis. And I don't know if you were around for that or if you remember that at all. Okay. Well, it's coming out. It's going to be in there. It's on the Blu-ray, so I can't wait to see.
I would love to see more footage from the actual tour too.
Yes. Yeah, I believe there are some tour stuff as well in there.
I'm excited to see all this.
I was going to ask you, have you done any sort of thing with the estate in prep for this release? Man, we got to. Okay. I mean, we can get that. We can make something happen. Hopefully, we can put that.
Yeah, I'm surprised that I haven't connected more with them because I would love to. I have nothing but positive things to say about my whole experience with Prince. So I would love to, be a part of anything since it is my Diamonds and Pearls album.
That you are the pearl. Diamonds and Pearls.
Yeah. I have a little insider information,
Right. Well, let's shift gears a little bit. And I wanted to talk sort of transitioning out from Prince. Okay. I don't know how comfortable you are. I know the next album was the Symbol album. And I think the imagery changed a little bit. Maite came more into the forefront. Was Maite around when you guys were doing the Diamonds and Pearls?
With us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was Diamonds and Pearls, me and Lori. And then that's when Maite started to come into the picture. So she was on a little bit, on stage a little.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I remember there was the thing at the end of the home video, I believe. He shows this footage of him watching her on TV. I think when she was doing her belly dance or something. And as fans, we had no idea what the heck it meant. He was just foreshadowing sort of like, this is the next thing coming.
Yeah.
But so can you speak on terms of like how your time ended with Prince? Like your, if you can share that at all?
Yeah, I mean, it really just, it was kind of an organic ending. I don't remember, it just kind of was winding down. Like we finished the tour, the album was over, we weren't doing any more press. He was with Maite, they were doing the next album.
Okay.
And, Prince was always about reinventing.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't, the fact that it was even a year and a half, almost 2 years with Prince was just like miraculous. I didn't necessarily think it would go on forever.
Okay.
And again, I was just a young girl at the time. So I just didn't even, I don't know if I even thought about like, well, let me stay connected with Prince. I mean, we were very good friends. We were close throughout the whole process. And then it was just like he was going his way and I was going my way. And I was just off doing my next stuff. And we didn't really stay in touch. And then I always thought later it would come back around a little more full circle and we'd be able to connect, especially on the spiritual aspect and all the transition he had and all the transition I had. And I thought there would be a time for us to connect. And then unfortunately we did not get that time. So
got it. And that transformation, and I don't want to gloss over it, but I know we don't have too much time, but I think it's just super important, and I'm just pulling things that I was reading, and if you can speak on them, if you're not, but you mentioned that it was something with you and a Christian biker. I'm just curious, like, what?
We're just jumping over there. All right, well, let me tell you a little bit more of my personal side aspect of this.
Okay.
So here I am. I'm a professional dancer. I'm on stage. You see these pictures. I'm like looking so confident, so powerful, portraying this image. But I was not really that comfortable. I was just struggling with what most young girls and older women, all women struggle with, which is body image issues and food issues. And you would never know I was struggling with that by looking at me. I've always been thin. I've never been overweight. But just that pressure, and then being a dancer and an actress exacerbates the issue that all women have anyway, which is body and food and image and beauty and all of those things, right? Mm-hmm. So I was just struggling, chain smoking, doing my thing, like just trying to, find some peace, even though my life was so great and I was very happy, but in a little bit of a battle internally with just food issues, thinking about it too much, just, too much pressure to be thin, like not eating enough, kind of starving, binging, all that whole dynamic. And so I just wanted to get free from that. I was like, I can't keep living like this. I've got to get this peace inside of me, right? So I just started looking for answers, kind of searching for spiritual things, and was always a believer in God. And I had some people talk to me about Christianity, and I was like, I don't know, born again Christian, praise the Lord, praise the Lord. I already had the big hair. Now I was back to normal hair. I didn't want to go back to big old born again Christian hair. Praise the Lord with my big old Texas hair. So I was like, I don't know, but God, I believe in God. And I knew that if I had that spiritual connection stronger, that would help me to heal things that were going on with me. So I remember just praying one day. I was in my car. I think I was driving to an audition. I was on the freeway and I was like, all right, God, like, I believe in you. I just really need some answers about this food stuff. I need some answers about Jesus. Like, where does all this fit in? I don't know. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, like, my little car is encompassed with Hell's Angels, bikers. Oh, wow. I've got bikers in front of me, bikers on the side of me. You know how they travel in a pack? Mm-hmm. And so it was like, boom. And before I knew it, they're all around me. And I'm thinking, I was kind of like chuckling a little bit. I'm like, oh my gosh, the irony. Like, I'm praying for a sign and I've got Hell's Angels bikers like literally surrounding my car. And so I look a little more closely in front of me. I've got the two bikers in front of me and they've got their leather jackets on. Mm-hmm. And on the back of their leather jackets, it's a big cross. And over the cross, it says, "We ride for Jesus."
Wow.
And so that just kind of cracked me up because I'm like praying for a sign from God. And like, You know? And so I was like, okay, that's pretty funny. Like, this is the God I'm talking about, not like the outside, like religious, like my grandma's God. Like, my God talks to me in bikers, right?
Okay, I got
And
it.
so, it was just a series of events after that that more things started to happen. And, um, and I wound up just getting really deeper in faith
Mm,
and just really passionate about faith and passionate about healing and passionate about, getting free. And we talked about this a little bit before we got on, but that's when I kind of birthed my next career.
mm,
And it came from the book that I wrote called Counterfeit Comforts. And
yes.
Counterfeit Comforts was something that kind of came to me in prayer. There's my book right there, Counterfeit Comforts, when I was really asking God, like, what is my deal with food? Why can't I get free from this food issue? And I felt like
Mm,
I started thinking things I'd never thought before. And I kind of sensed that God was talking to me. And it wasn't like this audible voice, like, thus saith the Lord. But, I just was thinking things like food is not really your problem. You're just using food as a counterfeit comfort.
interesting.
Food is a symptom to the problem.
Mhm.
And
What
so,
was the problem? Did you?
well, the problem is really getting to the roots, why we overeat, why we smoke, why we drink too much, why we shop too much, why we are, looking for love in all the wrong places. It has to
Mm,
do a lot of times with those feelings we're not dealing with.
mhm,
It has to do with, fear, abandonment, betrayal, abuse, trauma.
mm,
And so as I started to go through this healing process with my faith and uncovering this, I started to kind of find the path out and realize that, the feelings you're not dealing with are dealing with you. Like, they're driving you into all these, counterfeits. And there's a way that you can transfer that dependence from a counterfeit onto the true comforter, which is God, your creator, in whatever way people find that to be.
mm.
And so now that's basically what I've now been doing for the last 25 years. I actually just wrote this little booklet, and I'll give it to those who, see if we can see this. Yep. Wait, 3 reasons you can't stop obsessing about food and body image.
Okay.
So I will, oh, you know what, actually, when we go live and when you publish this, if you want to get this little free copy of this little booklet that you can just read in like 15 minutes, you can go to stopobsession.com, and you can download it. And you
Mhm.
can get a little bit of insight into, what I do in terms of helping women get free
Mhm.
from body image issues and food issues. But I do it in a totally different way. Like, it's totally different. We don't talk about diets. We don't talk about what I call like the 4 C's, which are counting calories, cutting carbs, doing cardio, and controlling your food, trying to control, what should I eat? What should I not eat?
Right.
Should I do, keto? Should I do, da, 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 da? Like, I don't deal with any of that. I get into the roots and get into the inner life, because your outer experience, the things you're experiencing outwardly, are a reflection of where you are internally.
Mm.
So,
Say that one more time.
outer experience is a reflection of inner reality.
Mm,
So if you want to change your fruits, you don't try to control them or I shouldn't drink. I got to do. You got to go into the roots. And when you change your roots, you produce healthier fruits. So it's like, how do I do that? How do I get into those areas? How do I identify the roots? How do I actually get healed? Because there's
mm,
nothing wrong with eating healthy. I'm all about eating healthy. There's nothing wrong with learning how to eat protein and carbs and doing cardio work, all that stuff. But that doesn't address the real problem,
mm,
you know?
mm.
So that all that stuff is for the second part. That's after you deal with this, after you deal with the emotional, the inside, then you can add on all the diets. But women right now, it's crazy. It's billion and billion and $1 billion industry of, what's the next diet and what can I eat and fear of
Right.
all this food and hating how you look. And I
Mm.
just, I just don't want to see women just hating themselves and trying to get free. So that's my passion. Freedom is my passion.
I love that. One of the things I saw that you spoke on before doing research, and I think it's something that's super real, is spiritual warfare.
Oh yeah.
And particularly in today's world with just the 24/7 onslaught of everything, the instant access to everything. And like you said, I think the pressure to be this image of who you think you're supposed to be all the time, because we're always on things, obviously adds a lot of pressure on people. But I'm curious, like with that, talk if you can quickly, not to be quickly, but just spiritual warfare of the different things that are going on out here that I don't know sometimes if we're even aware of the things that we're allowing to sort of come into our psyche and our mind because we're just viewing all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I teach a lot about that from a spiritual perspective, that we're really fighting an enemy we cannot see.
Mm.
And, in the Christian faith, you think, oh, the devil or some demons. But a lot of us don't really recognize how the spiritual realm operates.
Mm.
And just like I was saying, when I was getting my revelation about counterfeit comforts, I was hearing from the spiritual realm. I was hearing from God, but I wasn't hearing an audible voice. That can happen. I think it's happened for people. It's never happened for me. But the way the spiritual realm communicates is often through thoughts and ideas. So God speaks like that, but also there's another part of the spiritual realm that is not God that also speaks like that.
Right.
And so, like you just said, our psyche and our thoughts, one of the things I teach is to really start to think about what you're thinking about. Because we don't recognize that a lot of our thoughts are really not even our own thoughts. They're like in the atmosphere and they're kind of dropping in and we don't even recognize it. And when you start to really discern and weigh the thoughts, why am I thinking this way? Why am I feeling this way? Well, your feelings follow your thoughts. Your feelings are a product of your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start to just begin to think about what you're thinking about and just discern, like, is this a thought that's full of life? Is this a thought that's full of truth? Is this a thought that's edifying and encouraging? And if it's not, there are very specific tools and ways to start to take dominion over your own mind. See, a lot of us, we just think whatever breezes into our heads, or we think whatever our circumstances are, but we don't realize really in every religion the power of, learning how to take thoughts captive, learning how to take dominion over your own thoughts. You can actually think, you can change how you think by being purposeful about it. And then you add on to that, starting to speak differently. So there's all these different tools that we've been given to kind of live above our circumstances, but a lot of us don't know how to do it. So we're just a victim to our circumstances. Yeah.
Wow. Take dominion of your thoughts and have discernment.
Have discernment.
What would today's Robia, if you could go back in time and you just had 2 minutes to tell yourself something back then?
Oh my gosh.
What would you say?
Probably just like be really present, take all this in. This is a once in a lifetime experience. If I knew then what I know now, I would just use the platform even differently to help more people, for sure. I'd love to go back and have some more conversations with Prince about different things that I would have now as a mature woman that I didn't know how to do at 19, even though we had some great conversations. But I'm just grateful for all of it. I don't regret a moment of it. It was nothing but just like fun and exciting. And I'm just honored. I'm honored to be a part of history with one of the greatest of all time. No question about it.
Love it. I love it. Robia, thank you so much for spending time with us this morning and sharing and leaving us something to think about for sure. And then again, if you can give everybody your website and how they can contact you and specifically get that book that you mentioned.
Yeah. So if you want to check out my full book that's published, that's Counterfeit Comforts. You can get that either on Amazon or you can get it from my website and I'll sign a copy and send it to you. And my website is simply my name, robiascott.com. My book is there. And then if you want to get this little free little guide so you can get a little taster of kind of what I do. And especially if you're a lady out there and you're struggling with this kind of stuff, this will give you some this will point you in the right direction. And you can download this for free at stopobsession.com because it's the 3 reasons you can't stop obsessing about food and body image. And, the other thing we're talking just real quick, we're talking about our mind. That's what just has me just upset that, so much for women, our mind is consumed with what we're going to eat, what we're not going to eat. and food. And can you imagine having that mind space back? Can you imagine if you weren't always thinking about that? Like
Mm-hmm.
that you could actually be present with your husband, be present with your kids, be present with your grandkids, what you could create, how you could scale at work, what you could bring forth into the world if you had all that mind space back and you weren't just consumed. Talk about spiritual warfare. Talk about spiritual warfare where you're
Hey,
just,
that's some real stuff. Yeah.
come on, you're
Uh,
consumed with food and calories and all that ridiculousness
mhm.
where like where you're built for so much more. You know,
Yeah.
you're built for so much more to be a powerful influencer, whether it's in your sphere of your family or it's a bigger platform to influence in a greater way. You know, as a woman, we're creative, we're birthers, we're meant to bring things forward into the earth. And so when the enemy keeps us in this little tiny locked in sphere of like, oh my gosh, I'm so fat, I hate myself. Da, da, da. Oh my gosh, he just steals like what we're supposed to
Mm.
release into the world. So my passion is to help break women out of that so they can release what they're called to release in the world, and men too, but mostly women.
I feel you. I feel you. Man.
Because it's more women that kind of struggle with this issue. But yeah.
Well, you'd be surprised. But I think personally, anybody, like, I want to read kind of what you're saying, because I think there's probably some nuggets in there that I can actually take, just even listening to you talk. I'm already identifying things, not about eating, but other things that, take me away
Yeah,
from being the dad I want to be, or
exactly.
being the friend, or even doing this sometimes. So yeah, those
Well, we all
stops.
need the counterfeits. For women, it can be more food. Men, maybe not as much with that. But with men, it's other stuff. You know, it's alcohol or it's the drive
Mm,
for success. It's all
mm,
those things we do to try to find the value and the worth. And whether it's sexual relationships, whether it's
mm.
gambling, it can be it doesn't really matter what the fruit is because the fruits people have different fruits. But
Mhm.
what I find is a lot of the roots are universal. So
Wow. Wow. Man, I didn't know we was going to have this type of conversation, but I love it.
I like to dig. I like to dig in deep. Yeah, I know. We could even go a lot deeper, but
Hey,
we just, yeah.
I get it. I get it. And I'm not going to put you on. No, I want to do that. I want to do that. I hate that I even said that. I was going to ask you if you, and we'll end it right here. I can edit this, but if it moves you, or if you feel it enough, since we are here at this space, what's like a scripture that you like can give to us, and just give us something to think about some more, or we're just giving up,
I would say
first.
one of my core scriptures in my life is 3 John 2. Beloved, I pray that you prosper and are in health, even as your soul prospers. So the degree that we prosper in life is really dependent on how much we prosper in our soul. And our soul is our mind, our will, and our emotions.
Mm,
So, you can be the richest person in the world, but if you're not prospering in your soul, you are not prospering. You are not successful. And I know because I was successful. I was on stage around the world. I was on TV. I was making a lot of money. I was doing everything. But I wouldn't consider myself successful because of where I was internally. So
mhm,
I'm all about, having beautiful things and being wealthy. That's great. I'm not against that. I'm not against prospering financially. But really, financial prosperity is the lowest level of prosperity.
mm.
It's the lowest level. That should be the icing. That shouldn't be
Right.
because if you're prospering financially and you're, on your 1,000 thread count sheets at night in your $5 million mansion and you are tormented and anxious and fearful, then you're not doing well, right? So 3 John 2, beloved, I pray that you prosper and are in health physically, health mentally, health spiritually, health relationally. And it's dependent on how you prosper in your soul. So that's what I teach. How do I prosper in my soul? How do I regain the domain of my brain?
Mhm.
How do
Man.
I really run that ship? How do I heal those things emotionally that I've been through, which we've all been through, whether
Mm,
it's physical abuse, sexual abuse, divorce, abandonment, not knowing who you are, being uncomfortable in your skin, rejection. Like we've all been through crap, all of
yeah.
us. I've
Yeah.
been through different crap than you've been through, but we've all been through some, right?
Mhm. Something.
We've all been through it. So we all have to know how to heal those places because it's that drives us to that, that drive for success, that drive for value, drives us to the food, drives us to the alcohol, drives us to the cigarettes.
Hmm.
So there we go.
Wow. Wow. See, we we need more. Well, how do I say this? Looking at your image and the image that you've portrayed earlier, and just coming from Prince and stuff, you wouldn't. At least I would never equate this with who you are. And so my point is to say we really need like women like yourself, beautiful. I find people that are married and have families and are doing the family thing are beautiful. Like that's who I want to listen to because like they're working through it and you're in charge of another human. Like so you have to be able to get your mind right. Because how you gonna raise and bring up the next one if you're not sort of so we
That's right.
need just more people like you that using these platforms and pushing this out. We can all look great, like we can all look like we're winning, but we need to feel that. And so I really feel what you're saying. It's good stuff that we can think about. So again, appreciate you, love you for this. Man, this was an honor.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, this was great. Ladies and gentlemen, please thank Robia. I know y'all gonna be in the comments. I know y'all gonna follow her on social and get her stuff, but we just want to thank you for being on here. And we're about to get out of here, ladies and gentlemen. As I always say, work it like a job. We'll see you next time. Peace. All right.